Me. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that an entire town had vanished. Not one person, not one family, not even a few neighbors. More than 100 men, women, me and children disappeared without leaving behind a single body. No signs of a struggle. No mass grave. No warning. No explanation. Just one mysterious word carved into a wooden post. CROATOAN. More than 400 years later, nobody knows exactly what happened. Did they starve? Were they murdered? Did they join a Native American tribe? Me, or did one of America's oldest settlements simply vanish into history? Tonight, we're uncovering the chilling mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke, one of the greatest disappearances ever recorded. Welcome to the Midnight Archive, where forgotten histories, unsolved mysteries, and the darkest secrets of the past are brought back into the light. Me, if you're fascinated by stories that continue to puzzle the world centuries later, you're in the right place. So dim the lights, settle in, me, and join us as we open another file from the archive and explore one of history's most haunting mysteries. Imagine sailing across an endless ocean for months, surviving violent storms, disease, hunger, and uncertainty, only to arrive in a strange new land that promised a better future. Now imagine returning to that settlement 3 years later and finding absolutely nothing. No people, no bodies, no signs of battle, no graves, no answers, just a single word carved into wood, a word that would become one of history's greatest mysteries. CROATOAN. More than 4 centuries have passed since that discovery, yet nobody can say with certainty what happened to over 100 men, women, and children who disappeared from Roanoke Colony. It remains one of America's oldest unsolved mysteries. And tonight, we're going back to the beginning. Back to a time when the New World was still largely unknown. Back to an age of explorers, kings, dangerous seas, and impossible dreams. Because to understand how an entire colony vanished, we first need to understand why they were there in the first place. And that story begins with ambition. The year was 1584. England and Spain were bitter rivals. Spain had become one of the richest and most powerful nations on Earth thanks to its colonies in the Americas. Gold, silver, and valuable resources flowed into Spanish ports. England watched with envy. Queen Elizabeth knew that if England wanted to compete, it needed colonies of its own. That responsibility fell to an ambitious English nobleman named Sir Walter Raleigh. Raleigh dreamed of establishing England's first permanent settlement in North America. Not only would it challenge Spanish power, but it would also create new opportunities for trade, wealth, and expansion. The idea sounded simple. Find land, build a colony, create a new future, but reality was far more complicated. The New World was dangerous, unknown, and unforgiving. Still, Raleigh was determined. In 1584, he sent an expedition across the Atlantic Ocean to explore the eastern coast of North America. The explorers eventually reached an island off what is now North Carolina. The area seemed promising. The climate was mild. The land appeared fertile. Fishing was plentiful. Most importantly, the location offered strategic advantages for England. The explorers returned home with glowing reports. They described beautiful forests, abundant wildlife, and opportunities beyond imagination. England became excited. This new territory was named Virginia in honor of Queen Elizabeth. Often called the Virgin Queen, a new chapter in history seemed ready to begin. But nobody knew that this land would soon become the center of one of the greatest mysteries ever recorded. The first attempt at colonization began in 1585. A group of English settlers arrived and established a small outpost on Roanoke Island. At first, things seemed promising. The settlers encountered Native American tribes who had lived in the region for generations. Some interactions were peaceful. Others quickly became tense. Language barriers created misunderstandings. Cultural differences led to suspicion. Trust was fragile, and survival became difficult. The colonists struggled to grow food. Supplies ran low. Relations with local tribes deteriorated. Before long, the settlement faced serious challenges. Then an unexpected opportunity arrived. The famous English naval commander, Sir Francis Drake, happened to be sailing nearby after conducting military operations against Spanish forces. When Drake stopped at Roanoke, he found the colony struggling. The settlers decided they had seen enough. Rather than remain in the uncertain wilderness, they returned to England with Drake. The first colony had failed. For many people, that would have been the end of the story. But Raleigh refused to give up. He believed success was still possible. All he needed was a better plan. Unfortunately, his next attempt would create a mystery that history still cannot explain. 2 years later, in 1587, a second expedition prepared to sail. This group would be different. Unlike the first colony, which consisted largely of soldiers and adventurers, the new settlers included entire families. Men, women, children, people who intended to build permanent lives in the new world. Among them was a man named John White. White was chosen as governor of the new colony. He was respected, experienced, and familiar with the region. The settlers trusted him. They believed he could lead them toward success. The colony included approximately 115 people. Many carried hopes of land ownership, prosperity, and a better future. Some dreamed of raising families in a new world free from the limitations of England. Others simply sought opportunity. They had no way of knowing they were stepping into history. The voyage across the Atlantic was long and difficult. Ships battled rough seas. Supplies had to be carefully managed. Disease remained a constant threat. Weeks stretched into months. Finally, the settlers reached Roanoke Island. But almost immediately, problems began. The colony was supposed to be established farther north near the Chesapeake Bay. For reasons historians still debate, the expedition's pilot insisted on leaving the settlers at Roanoke instead. It was not the original plan, yet the colonists had little choice. They unloaded supplies and began rebuilding. At first, there was optimism. Homes were constructed, fields were prepared, the settlers worked tirelessly. Life slowly took shape. Then an extraordinary event occurred. On August 18, 1587, a child was born. Her name was Virginia Dare. She was the granddaughter of Governor John White. More importantly, she became the first English child born in the Americas. The birth was celebrated. To the settlers, it represented hope, a symbol of the future they were trying to create, a sign that their colony might succeed where others had failed. For a brief moment, everything seemed possible. But beneath the surface, danger was growing. Food shortages soon emerged. Relations with local Native American groups remained unstable. The settlers realized they desperately needed additional supplies. Without outside assistance, survival would become nearly impossible. As governor, John White faced an agonizing decision. The colony needed help. Someone had to return to England. White initially resisted the idea. His daughter lived in the colony. His newborn granddaughter lived there too. Leaving them behind was heartbreaking. But there was no alternative. The settlers urged him to go. They believed he could quickly secure supplies and return. Reluctantly, White agreed. Before departing, he discussed emergency plans with the colonists. If they moved to another location, they were instructed to carve their destination into a tree or post. If they were forced to leave under danger or attack, they should carve a cross alongside the message. It was a simple system, one that White hoped he would never need. Then, he boarded a ship and sailed toward England. As the coastline disappeared behind him, he had no idea he would never see most of those settlers again. What happened next changed everything. When White arrived in England, he expected to gather supplies and quickly return. Instead, circumstances beyond his control intervened. England was preparing for war. Spain planned to launch a massive invasion. The threat was enormous. Every available ship became critical to national defense. The conflict would soon become known as the Spanish Armada. Because of the crisis, White's return voyage was repeatedly delayed. Months passed. Then years. White grew increasingly desperate. His family remained across the ocean. Every delay intensified his fears. What if supplies ran out? What if disease struck? What if conflict erupted? Yet there was nothing he could do. England's survival came first. The colony would have to wait. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, the settlers faced an uncertain future alone. No one knows exactly what happened during those years. No diaries survived. No letters were found. No eyewitness accounts exist. History simply goes silent. And when history goes silent, mysteries are born. 3 years passed. Finally, in 1590, John White secured passage back to Roanoke. The journey must have felt endless. Every day brought new anxiety. Every mile raised new questions. Were the colonists alive? Had they survived? Was his daughter safe? Was Virginia Dare growing up healthy? White desperately wanted answers. At last, the coast of Roanoke appeared on the horizon. Relief flooded through him. Soon he would be reunited with his family. Soon everything would be fine. Or so he believed. What he was about to discover would shock him, because when John White finally stepped onto Roanoke Island, the colony was gone. 3 years. For 3 long years, Governor John White had imagined this moment, He had pictured children running through the settlement. Farmers tending crops. Families gathered around fires. He imagined seeing his daughter again, holding his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, in his arms, the first English child born in the New World. Now, as his ship approached Roanoke Island in August of 1590, White felt relief. The nightmare was finally over, or so he thought. What he discovered instead would become one of history's greatest mysteries. As White and his crew moved toward the colony, something immediately felt wrong. There was no smoke rising from chimneys. No voices. No movement. No signs of life. The settlement should have been busy. Children should have been playing. Workers should have been gathering supplies. Someone should have noticed the approaching ship. But the shoreline remained silent. The deeper White entered the colony, the worse his fear became. The houses were empty. The workshops were abandoned. The settlement had vanished. Not destroyed. Not burned. Not attacked. Simply abandoned. More than 100 men, women, and children were gone. Every single one, White rushed from building to building. Nothing. No bodies. No graves. No evidence of a battle. No signs of panic. No blood. No weapons left behind. Nothing. Then he noticed something carved into a wooden post. A single word. CROATOAN. White froze. The mysterious word had been carefully carved into the wood. Nearby, the letters, CRO, had also been carved into a tree. Suddenly, White remembered the agreement he had made with the settlers years earlier. If they moved, they would leave a message. If they left under danger or attack, they would carve a cross. There was no cross. That detail mattered. It suggested the colonists had not fled in panic. They had moved voluntarily. At least, that was White's first impression. But where had they gone? And why? The word CROATOAN wasn't completely unfamiliar. It referred to a nearby island south of Roanoke. Today it is known as Hatteras Island. A Native American tribe called the CROATOAN people lived there. White immediately developed a theory. Perhaps the settlers had relocated to CROATOAN. Maybe food shortages forced them to move. Maybe they had joined the local tribe. Maybe they were waiting there for rescue. For the first time, hope returned. if the colonists were on CROATOAN Island. They might still be alive. His daughter might still be alive. Virginia Dare might still be alive. The mystery could have a happy ending. All White needed to do was travel to the island. Unfortunately, fate intervened once again. A powerful storm began building offshore. The ship's captain became concerned. Conditions grew dangerous. Strong winds battered the vessel. Massive waves crashed against the hull. White pleaded with the crew. He begged them to continue searching. He desperately wanted to reach CROATOAN Island. But the captain refused. The risk was too great. Eventually the ship turned away. And just like that, White's chance disappeared. He never returned to Roanoke. He never saw his daughter again. He never saw Virginia Dare again. And he never learned what happened to the lost colony. The mystery remained unsolved. For more than 400 years, almost immediately, rumors began spreading. Some people believed the colonists had been killed by Native American tribes. Others believed starvation had claimed them. Some suggested disease. Others imagined darker possibilities. But without evidence, nobody could know for sure. The years passed, then decades, then centuries, and the mystery only grew. Every generation tried to solve it. Every generation failed, because the lost colony left behind almost no clues. Only questions, endless questions. One of the most popular theories involves assimilation. According to this idea, the colonists simply joined Native American communities. Many historians consider this possibility highly likely. Think about their situation. Food was scarce. Supplies were limited. Rescue never arrived. The settlers knew survival alone would be difficult. Meanwhile, local tribes possessed generations of knowledge. They understood the land. They knew where to hunt, where to fish, how to survive harsh conditions. Joining a tribe may have been the most logical decision, and there is intriguing evidence supporting this theory. Years after the disappearance, English explorers reported encountering Native Americans with unusual features. Some allegedly had gray eyes, others displayed characteristics uncommon among local populations. Certain tribes even claimed ancestors who could read English books. One report described Native Americans living in stone houses rather than traditional structures. These accounts fascinated researchers. Could descendants of the Roanoke colonists have survived by integrating into native communities? Some historians believe so. Others remain skeptical. The reports were often secondhand. Details changed over time. Evidence remained incomplete. Still, the theory refused to disappear because it made sense, and unlike some theories, it didn't require anything supernatural. Yet another possibility involves conflict. Relations between colonists and Native Americans were complicated. Some tribes welcomed the newcomers, Others viewed them with suspicion. Earlier English expeditions had damaged relationships through violence and misunderstandings. By 1587, tensions already existed. If food became scarce, those tensions could have escalated. A conflict may have erupted. The colonists could have been attacked. But there is a problem with this explanation. Investigators found no evidence of a massacre, no burned buildings, no battlefield, no mass grave, no signs of large-scale violence. While conflict remains possible, the physical evidence simply isn't there. And that's what makes Roanoke so frustrating. Every theory explains some clues, but none explain all of them. Then there is the starvation theory. This one is simple. The colony struggled. Supplies ran out. Rescue never arrived. Eventually, the settlers died. At first glance, this sounds reasonable. After all, early colonies often faced severe hardships. But once again, a major problem appears. Where are the bodies? If more than 100 people died near Roanoke, evidence should exist. Human remains, burial sites, artifacts, something. Yet, despite centuries of searching, no definitive mass grave has been discovered. The absence of evidence continues to puzzle experts. As the mystery grew, more dramatic theories emerged. Some people suggested pirates, others blamed secret Spanish attacks. Remember, Spain and England were enemies. Spanish forces actively hunted English settlements. Could Spanish soldiers have discovered Roanoke and eliminated the colony? It's possible. But no Spanish records confirm such an operation, and Spain kept detailed military records. A successful attack would likely have been documented. Again, the evidence falls short. Then came the more unusual ideas. Some claimed supernatural forces were responsible. Others imagined curses. Ghost stories began appearing. Legends spread across generations. After all, few mysteries are as unsettling as an entire community disappearing without explanation. Human imagination naturally fills empty spaces, and Roanoke contains a lot of empty spaces. Enough to inspire hundreds of books, documentaries, and investigations. Yet despite all the speculation, one fact remains unchanged. Nobody knows exactly what happened. Modern archaeology has attempted to solve the mystery scientifically. Researchers have spent decades searching for evidence. Advanced technology has been used. Ground-penetrating radar, excavations, historical analysis, satellite mapping. Each new discovery creates excitement, and occasionally, promising clues emerge. Archaeologists have found English artifacts in areas connected to Native American settlements. Tools, pottery fragments, metal objects. These discoveries suggest some colonists may have relocated inland rather than remaining on Roanoke Island. If true, the settlers might have divided into smaller groups. Some could have joined native communities. Others may have moved elsewhere. Such a scenario would explain why the colony seemed to disappear so completely. Instead of one dramatic event, perhaps Roanoke slowly dissolved over time, families adapting, moving, merging into existing populations, history quietly absorbing them. But perhaps the most haunting part of the Roanoke mystery isn't what happened. It's who disappeared. These weren't soldiers on a battlefield. They weren't explorers lost at sea. They were families, parents, children, neighbors, ordinary people chasing extraordinary dreams. Among them was little Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America. Her fate remains unknown. No record tells us how she lived or how she died. She simply vanishes from history, like a character stepping out of a story. Gone, without a trace, more than 400 years later. The lost colony of Roanoke still captures imaginations around the world. Because deep down, everyone asks the same question. How can an entire community disappear? In an age before cameras and modern records, people still leave traces behind. But Roanoke left almost none, just abandoned buildings, a mysterious carving, and silence. A silence that has echoed through centuries. Maybe the colonists joined the CROATOAN tribe and survived. Maybe they scattered across the wilderness. Maybe they met a tragic end we will never fully understand. The truth may already be buried beneath forests, rivers, and centuries of change. Or perhaps it has been lost forever. What remains is one of the oldest unsolved mysteries in American history. A colony that vanished, a word carved into wood, and a question that still refuses to die. What really happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? The answer may have disappeared with them.